Patriots! And welcome to the Q Lounge Live. Hi, I am your host, Shady Grooove, and this is the intheMatrixx channel. intheMatrixx did not make it back to the studio tonight, but I think he is out there in chat. What a lovely evening. It is Friday night. It is 7 p.m. on the West Coast, 10 p.m. on the East Coast. Guys, I'm telling you, what a week it has been. I hope you're excited. If you are not excited after this week, then you are not going to get excited. Everyone, wow, what a time to be alive. What a time to be here. What a time to be together. And what a time to be getting organized, getting louder, getting more heard. Everyone, Anons worldwide, welcome to the Q Lounge Live. Please, if you are new to Q out there, thanks for joining us. It's an amazing topic. We are digging into some very interesting things here. Some history, some current events, and your president and Q leading the charge, taking down the global deep state. Everyone out there, if you have questions, we have some of the best moderators on YouTube right here in the chat looking to answer any questions that you may have, plus to bring you some sauce as we talk about these different issues out here today. We have been literally running full steam ahead. Matrixxx really apologizes for not being here tonight. He was trying to get back and it didn't work out for him to get back here to you. I'm not sure how bad it's going to be buffering out there, but I'm sure it will be. That's just their modus operandi. There's a couple of ways you might be able to mitigate that by backing it up a smidge or maybe taking down your resolution just a little bit. But wow, guys, wow. Just wanted to say, this is amazing. This is an amazing amazing time right now, and you're witnessing something that no other human beings have ever witnessed, which is an exposure of a global control system that has been in place for centuries, everyone. It was in place way before America was established, and we tried to shake off the parasite, and they obviously came back. And so now we're here fighting together amongst everyday bombardment by deep state attacks against Q and against the president and against the truth, the narrative of the truth that the president is standing up for your freedom, bringing your freedom every day to the current conversation. And whenever I mean bringing it to the current conversation, I don't mean just a little bit, guys. He is talking about everything. He is, since the Barr or the Mueller testimony came out, he has opened up the conversation across the board on many different issues that I know you guys as Americans care a lot about. We're all worried about the environment. We're all worried about these different side scenarios, but there are priorities, and the priorities have been put forth by the president. And I really think that he has gotten a long way in controlling and talking over the media's heads. We are consistently battling fake news out there, guys. All of you anons out there on Twitter battling fake news every day and trying to reassert the truth to their narrative. I know it's not easy, but man, I see so many of you out there doing that and taking so much of your valuable time to share with the anons and to help spread this message. We have been at a breakneck speed on the Matrixxx Grooove Hour this week. Wow, that was a fun week because so much stuff came to light, and we've covered most of it throughout the week, as much as we could get to within the hour allotted, but we obviously keep going over sometimes. So if you didn't check those out, please do. And the today's show, we did a lot of discussing about General Flynn. General Flynn is very important to this movement, everyone, and this is going to come out even more. I think there's even more to it than some of us know, but the president tweeted about General Flynn today, asking if he was such a threat. Why wasn't his administration notified? How come it wasn't important enough to tell him, but it's so important to talk to spread propaganda? And so it's interesting how the propaganda gets spread and the person who is your elected president is kept out of the loop. Well, I would be frustrated with that, and I think that all of you guys are frustrated with that, and we have seen another layer of censorship this week on Twitter. Praying Medic, Lisa May, Joe M, a bunch of other large accounts, Matrixxx as well, lost a good number of followers, and then a lot of people were talking about how they were not bots that were taken down. They were patriot conservative people, voices who were making a difference. And it's interesting how these different mistakes keep getting made on our side here, on our conversation. We're trying to explain to people and express to people our support for the current president of the United States, and we're being censored on all platforms. And we know the deep state is in control of all of these platforms, so we expected as much, and we have been working to the best of our ability to get the message out there. And you guys, the anons in the, just to maybe take just a second, I'd like to speak for a moment to all of the anons out there who are outside of the borders of America. And I know that a lot of people out there have a very large, good understanding of the deep state and how its control over America has changed the course of history, and how the cabal utilized the wealth and the independence and the capitalist nature in America to attack and enslave or destroy other parts of the world in the name of wars, in the name of police actions, in the name of weapons of mass destruction, wrongfully attacking countries that didn't attack us. All of these different things that have happened over the course of the last 100 years. We see you, worldwide anons. We are with you, worldwide anons. I would like to report that the people inside the borders of America are waking up at an alarming rate. They are seeing through this stuff, and I would like to tell you guys to have faith in us. We will not fail on this mission. And let me say that again. We will not fail on this mission. That's a full stop, okay? There is no failure on this mission. We have currently gotten so far along with this plan that I am pretty sure that the outcome is inevitable. They will be exposed. There is nothing that they can do at this point to stop it. A little tidbit, the OIG report is in staff committee, so that will be coming out really soon, and we're going to connect back to some of the Q drops here. There's not been any more Q in a few days, but that is okay because we have the president directing our laser beams, okay? We are directing the mainstream media to go over here and chase chum in the water while we're over here doing the real work, which is waking people up and bringing people to the actual conversation of who and what this mission is about. And this mission is about solely waking people up and making people more aware of our need for liberty, our need for freedom, our need for justice, and our need for accountability. That is what we are looking for. We want accountability in our government. We recognize that other governments and other systems around the world have no accountability. That's what sets your system above and beyond all the rest out there. People can say that America is this and America is that, and I'm not saying that America is perfect, but I am saying that America is great, and there is no other place on the face of the earth where you are allowed free speech. Now, I understand a lot of people out there are upset with their censorship levels, and I am upset with my censorship level. I know Matrixxx is upset with his, and so this is a conversation that is not just about talking, okay? Whenever we talk about something like freedom of speech, we are not just talking about your ability to speak out loud. We are talking about your ability to make choices upon your opportunities, your decision making. You have the ability to worship where you would like to worship. You have the ability to work where you would like to work. You have the ability to get ahead or get better at anything that you would like to do. Those things go under the category of free speech, guys. And they go under the category of liberty. And it is exactly what the framers of the Constitution meant whenever they attempted to set up a system that wasn't completely controlled by a cabal of bankers who decide to steal everything from you and then charge you interest while they're doing it. That is the con, that is the Ponzi scheme, that is the scam. We are taking apart the Federal Reserve of America, and we are going to put the dollar back on the gold standard and back in the control of the Treasury. You can see the president making moves in this regard every day. With every day comes another step towards this. He right now has them pinned down where they cannot raise rates. They cannot justify in the normal economic market mindset out there why in the world they would raise rates right now. Wouldn't make any sense. The president is pushing them to lower rates. Well, if they lower rates, that's not going to help them because remember, they engineered this system to fail. The banking interest-based system doesn't work unless it fails. So every time they build it up and they get everybody back in the market, and then the market fails and they take everything out and they remove X amount of wealth that never gets put back into the system. That's the con. That's the scam. This has been going on ever since they started the central banking system in America. And it's been going on ever since the quote unquote communists started inserting their ideas into a capitalist system. And we've been going through that, you guys, the last couple of weeks. And I went back and listened to the show last Friday, and the volume and the vocals, everything was all spotty and terrible. And so I apologize for that. I hope that we are running better out there tonight. I'm not sure, but I hope that we're doing a little bit better for you. I apologize for that. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's always something with people trying to get the truth out. and other people maybe not wanting us to get the truth out, right? So tonight, we are going to start here. Like I said, General Flynn is back in the news. It was a great show earlier today. If you didn't catch it, we played a long clip of Mr. Flynn, or General Flynn, during the campaign, and that was lots and lots of Q booms in that man's speech. So tonight we're going to dig into a little bit. You guys are hearing about this interview that Fox News just did with the Attorney General, and wow, there was some more Q booms in that. Let me tell you right now, pretty amazing Q booms in all reality that we're going to dig into. But first tonight, let's see if we can get over here to the window so you guys can see in here for a second. All right, here we go. So I wanted to start off with this one and read you this Q drop from 2/17 on Qth Day, February Qth Day, a couple months ago. And it says this: Barr to Mueller. Bob, show me the evidence and reasoning for why this investigation was started and still ongoing. Mueller to Barr. With regards to the president, we have found no links or ties to any foreign entity, etc. Barr to Mueller. Mandate was clear. Verify and investigate reports of possible foreign collusion between POTUS and Russia. What justification existed to effectively launch a massive domestic foreign surveillance campaign against the president, president-elect, president, and members of his transition and campaign team? Mueller to Barr. The Steele dossier, along with media corroboration of these findings. Barr to Mueller. Was the Steele report a trusted and verified report per intel to continue, especially considering the funding party was the opposition party? Mueller to Barr. Those facts were never taken into consideration. Fisk granted authority to conduct based on the conclusions presented. Barr to Mueller. What was Fisk made aware of all the details surrounding the dossier? Mueller to Barr. No, we believe there was urgency placed on the authority given the gravity of the timeline of events that these involved negated to populate fully. Those involved. Barr to Mueller. Why were efforts made to continue investigating the president, interrupt his official capacity in governing if the only doc presented was unsubstantiated and unverified? Why were questions and threat of subpoena communicated to the president if no factual foundation existed? All charges thus far are unrelated to the original mandate. Why are you still active and pursuing a crime if no verifiable evidence or evidence through discovery exists? Barr to Rod Rosenstein. What justification did you have to effectively expand the mandate, not report that expansion to Congress in order to seek a crime outside of Russian collusion? What specific reasoning and or facts existed to justify the appointment of a special counsel to begin with per the law? Why did you recommend to Sessions that he should recuse? Why wasn't the mandate, budget, and regular updates provided to Congress upon request? And why is everything kept confidential and under inappropriate classification? Was the purpose of investigating to find a crime versus investigate evidence of a crime? Class 1 through 9. Q. Now that's one of the major drops regarding Barr. There were a few other ones that are interesting here, but as you notice, right after, and I think it was Valentine's Day. Right after Valentine's Day, this drop came out. This was the 17th leading into the 20th. Here, this is the 21st. And then in this drop here, it says, does SDNY report to AG Barr? Answer to that is yes. So interesting digging into some of the stuff regarding Barr here because of this interview today. And I wanted to read that for you first. And I think that was the last one that I wanted to read you. No, maybe this one. Attorney General Barr disgusted by what he's discovered so far. Quote, in all my years, in all my life, never would have I thought be possible within the halls of these prestigious federal agencies. Press conference coming. They will claim political attack. Cue. Now, next, I want to play you some of this, and I hope it plays. We will see if it plays. I want to play for you some of this interview today, because I think that today he said a lot of stuff that we just read there. Let's see if this will work.
I remember at the hearing about a month ago, you said you're still trying to get your head around everything. What are you trying to figure out?
Well, the first step is find out exactly what happened. And we're trying to get our arms around that, getting all the relevant information from the various agencies, and starting to talk to some of the people that have information. You know, the thing that's interesting about this is that this was handled at a very senior level of these departments. It wasn't handled in the ordinary way that investigations or counterintelligence activities are conducted. It was sort of an ad hoc small group, and most of these people are no longer with the FBI or the CIA or the other agencies involved.
This appears to run deep. Why is it so hard to figure out?
Well, there are two things here. One, no one's really looked at it. I think there's a misconception out there that we know a lot about what happened. The fact of the matter is, Bob Mueller did not look at the government's activities. He was looking at whether or not the Trump campaign had conspired with the Russians, but he was not going back and looking at the counterintelligence program. And we have a number of investigations underway that touch upon it, the main one being the Office of Inspector General that's looking at the FISA warrants. But as far as I'm aware, no one has really looked across the whole waterfront.
So you came into this job and you started asking questions. Did you get any answers?
Well, I thought when I came in from the outside that all the questions that I had and many other people had that would be readily answered once I got in, but I haven't found that to be the case.
You also said back in April that you thought there was spying going on in the Trump campaign. When do you think that started?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about when it started. We're going to find out when it started.
It's been said that it was July of 2016. Does that sound right to you?
Again, I don't want to speculate. What I will say is that I've been trying to get answers to questions, and I found that a lot of the answers have been inadequate. And I've also found that some of the explanations I've gotten don't hang together. So in a sense, I have more questions today than I did when I first started.
Some of what things don't hang together?
Some of the explanations of what occurred.
Why does that matter?
Well, because I think people have to find out what the government was doing during that period. If we're worried about foreign influence, for the very same reason, we should be worried about whether government officials abuse their power and put their thumb on the scale. And so I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying that we have to look at that.
Can you say when Bob Mueller knew there was no collusion with Russia?
No, I couldn't say that.
No date given?
No, I couldn't say when he knew. Obviously, one of the big challenges we face right now in law enforcement is the humanitarian crisis on the border, and a lot of that is being driven by families coming up from Central America. A related factor to that is the gang violence that's prevalent in these three Northern Triangle countries, MS-13, the 18th Street Gang. And so the Justice Department has a very robust program down here to help the governments attack this drug problem. We're working very closely with them.
Are you seeing success?
There's been a lot of success. In the last 3 years, the murder rate has dropped in half here in El Salvador. And in 3 years, in the Northern Triangle, we've been able to charge over 7,000 members of MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang. It's a great partnership we have with them, and it's helping us in the United States because MS-13 gang members that we can get down here are not going to be coming up to the United States. And also,
so he was in El Salvador and going over some stuff in Central America. But right there, guys, was a couple of big booms of their story doesn't hang together. That is huge. And what do Anons want? We want the investigators investigated. That is the way our system is supposed to work. You're not allowed to just be up at the pinnacle and up at the top of these agencies and be unchecked. And that is what was going on. He does go a little bit more in, he kind of skips around here in this interview and talks about this a little bit more of the dossier. And let's see if I can get it right here for you.
At all?
I know some facts, but it's
handled the Russian investigation.
Prosecuted 6 MS-13 members in New Jersey using intelligence that was gathered down here.
How do you think John Brennan and James Clapper handled the Russian investigation?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate about the facts because I don't know the facts at this point.
At all?
I know some facts, but it's premature to be discussed.
Can you tell us what the Steele dossier had to do with this? What role did that play?
Well, that's one of the questions, that we're going to have to look at. It's a very unusual situation to have opposition research like that, especially one that on its face had a number of clear mistakes and a somewhat jejune analysis, and to use that to conduct counterintelligence against an American political campaign is would be a strange development. I'm not sure what role it played, but that's something we have to look at.
Do you smell a rat in this at this point?
I don't know if I'd describe it a rat. I would just say that
I would describe it as a rat.
The answers I'm getting are not sufficient.
Just to follow up on that, Republicans have said for months that these men, Brennan, Clapper, maybe James Comey, had it in for Trump. Do you think that's true?
Again, I'm not going to speculate about their motives.
In the period of time between Election Day and the inauguration, did anyone in government or in intelligence, did they take action to justify their decisions?
Between Election Day, did you say?
Between Election Day of 2016 in November and Inauguration Day.
I think there were some very strange developments during that period. That's one of the things we want to look into.
Such as?
Such as the handling of the meeting on January 6th between the intelligence chiefs and the president, and the leaking of information subsequent to that meeting.
Was that meeting in New York City?
Yes.
In Trump Tower?
Yes.
What questions do you have about what happened that day?
Again, I'm not going to get into that.
But it's on your mind.
That's one of the things we need to look at.
Can you characterize how far advanced you are in understanding that meeting?
We're still in the stage of gathering all the information.
Remember what the president's position has been from the beginning. Called it a hoax.
So, that gives you a little insight right there. He also goes on in this interview to say that it was very unusual where the case involving Hillary and the case involving Donald Trump were both being handled by upper level senior officials, as opposed to the normal way that they operate there. So we Anons, all of you guys know exactly what he's talking about there. He's talking right to you. That's the Attorney General talking right to the American people and bringing you some truth that actually is very refreshing. He did say he's not sure if it's a rat. I think that I agree with a few of you guys out there. The rats are everywhere. There's more than one. And if you saw this week, what you saw John Brennan on CNN multiple nights talking about how this was not illegal, talking about how protocol was followed. Well, the Attorney General right there didn't seem too convinced that protocol in the justice system or in the DOJ or in the FBI was followed. He did make a reference to Trump Tower. Even as early or as recent as today, there are people on Fox News even that they put on there to argue an alternative point that are talking about this meeting at Trump Tower. I've heard about this meeting at Trump Tower so many times from these lunatics that I'm about to come out of my skin. They will not acknowledge that the Glenn Simpson Fusion GPS met with the lady that met with them the day before, met with the lady that met with them the day of, met with the lady that met with them the day after. And this is not anywhere, we're so stupid. This is nothing unusual. We have George Papadopoulos going on the air talking about his case now, bringing out amazing revelations about what really happened over there and how they targeted him. He knows that they were intelligence officials. He knows who these people were. Miss Fudd and what was his name? Stephen Halper, and another lady who cornered him and attempted to bribe him. They tried to give him $10,000 in cash. Okay, and they tried to get his girlfriend to wear a wire while she was with him. He knew these were nefarious characters. He didn't. Thank goodness he was smart enough to not get on an airplane with the $10,000 that they gave him, because whenever he went through the airport, they searched him and were furiously looking for the $10,000 that they had given him in cash so that they could amplify their narrative against him. Set up. So that news is out there. That news is real. That news is being reported from multiple people, but the mainstream narrative just keeps on plugging away at the clown talking points over and over and over and over again. Clown talking points, clown talking points, clown talking points. We are at the point where that is not going to last much longer. Also, a funny moment this week. The Attorney General met Nancy Pelosi the other day, and he even says it in the interview here. I think it might be a little bit further along, but he's so coy and funny there. But he met Nancy Pelosi, and he walked up to her and asked her if she brought her handcuffs with her. So this is a man that is not afraid. This is a man that knows the law, and this is a man who is standing up for justice and accountability. The president has told you and told us over and over and over again that the fake news is the enemy of the people. And whenever he says that, the fake news, the people who report fake news about him, stand up and start screaming and yelling and get really, really loud and tell you that this person is a dictator, and this person is taking away the press freedom of reporting. So they think that they can intentionally misrepresent stories, and they can lie, and they can pretend like that their story was this or their story was that, and it was just misreporting. Okay, now there are libel laws in America. There is an accountability structure for media companies, but we have not been using our power in the last 50 years or so. We've been letting them run ramshot over us. We've been letting them drive their narrative that you don't have a voice, drive their narrative that what you say doesn't matter, drive their narrative that their perspective is the only perspective, and anyone outside of that thought bubble is wrong. So driving the narrative. Now, there are a large group of people consuming this across our country. They are still consuming the narrative, everyone. It isn't as, it's not as, maybe it's not as big as it was since the Mueller report came out. They definitely lost a lot of people once the Mueller came out, but they're holding on to this narrative that the president is somehow going to be impeached, going to be thrown out of office, not going to get reelected. Look at this field of candidates that they get more and more every day. I mean, de Blasio now has jumped into the race. They were heckling him so bad outside of his announcement in New York. You could hear him inside the studio as he was attempting to announce his campaign. There is no one out there, guys, who can beat President Trump. And we know that we have enough understanding of the voter fraud across the country to where they're not going to have the same access to the voting infrastructure that they've had for the last 25 years. This really did start in the mid-90s. Our republic was not as in peril then as it is now because of digital voting machines. Whenever the paper ballots that we had here and the system that we had with voting was very, very cumbersome for a deep state operation to usurp elections. They could control candidates, but it was really hard to usurp national elections just because of the quantitative calculation of all of the votes from coast to coast. And then as the votes come in, the time zones move. And, but I'm telling you right now, and one thing you guys might not be paying attention to is the Electoral College. Your Electoral College in America is under deep state attack, relentless deep state attack. So if you live in some of these states, I know Colorado is one of them, I think New York is another, I think there's 10 or 12 states now that are entering legislation to, what they're saying is to recognize the national vote and vote with the popular vote. So what we have here is a state, any state that's on the East Coast are saying that we're not gonna release our election results until Hawaii is done voting, and then what? You're gonna match up after everything else. So who holds back their tallies as the electoral votes are calculated, moving through the time zones in the procedures that we've been using in the modern era? Very interesting out there, and I would recommend anyone that lives in a state where they are attempting to do this to stand up for your republic, make yourself be heard in your districts, to your congressmen, to your representatives on the ground. I know that it's not easy to communicate with your national or your state officials. You can still call their offices and make your voices heard, but if you can get face to face with your local representatives and let them know what's going on and your concerns, and especially if you can get a group together that have I think, regardless of Q and all of this stuff going on in the background, most Americans want their electoral college. And I'll be the first to admit that I was brainwashed in high school to think that, school to think that the electoral college was a thing of the past. Maybe it wasn't something that maybe it wasn't something that we need, or it's something that's outdated. I did have that perspective, but let me tell you, after watching what has happened in the elections over, the course of the last 20 years, it really is remarkable to even think that the founding fathers had an idea like that. Everything is kind of always dictated by the most votes or the most area, or how are they, they had to sit and come up with it, say, well, look, this state's only going to have this many people and this state's only going to have this many people. How do we make this fair? How do we make this even? How do we make everyone count without numbers counting the same way? So the popular vote, whereas, yes, it is tracked and it was tallied, is not relevant in your republic. In a democracy, the popular vote is extremely relevant. Mob rule, 51% control the 49%. Then you work into absolute power corrupts absolutely. But the truth of the matter is your electoral college is really, really, really under attack in multiple states. It is the reason you are currently here. And we are talking about Q, and we are talking about your president. We are talking about the cabal. We're talking about the deep state. We're all together. The reason is the Electoral College. It worked. Our republic exists, and we can point to that to know that it is still there. Yes, they have removed every edge that they can think of, whether it's, housing authorities, every rule that they place on you, all these policies. Remember, they enforce policy. Policy is legal and illegal. Okay? Law is lawful and unlawful. Those are not the same thing. Okay? Legal and illegal are not the same as lawful and unlawful. And I think your attorney general there is getting to the bottom of a lot of stuff. I felt like he had a couple little moments, little smirks as he was talking there, and then his comments to Kamala Harris during the committee hearings was very telling as well. This guy knows what's going on. You guys know what's going on. You just saw the Q post that I read that I feel like pretty much verbatim went over what he said in that interview to Bill Hemmer earlier today. And if you guys didn't check that out, I recommend that you go watch the rest of it, because there's Q booms everywhere in that. And there's Q booms everywhere in what the president is doing. There's Q booms in what the news is doing right now with Iran and attempting to instigate a theater, right? Notice how they call it a theater. Theater. You guys are watching a show. I don't really see war as a theater, but they do. The powers that be do. They think it's real fun. They think it's real fun to destroy human life and to maim people and to wreck families and to send people off to do things because their mind wants to serve their country, and then they are systematically moved into different areas of the world to do things that really have nothing to do with the freedom of America. And that document, that Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, that time, they did not want us to be involved in foreign wars. They didn't think that our involvement in foreign wars was necessary. They felt like that if we could establish a sovereign nation in a capitalist structure that was outside of cabal banking control, what is there to fight about? And they were right. They were right for a long, long time. It took a long time to work around to the initiation and the operation, which turned out to be World War I, which set in motion the chain of events that leads to where we are now. And if we go through the amount of slaughtered human beings by modern weaponry over the last 100 years, that number is staggering. The cabal didn't lose anything. The cabal gained control. But what did we lose? What did we as people, humanity, what did we lose? How many hundreds of millions of lives lost here that would have been creative, would have been people to help build us up, people to stand for liberty. All the people that died, all the Americans that died in World War I, all the Americans that died in World War II, all the Americans that died in Vietnam. What would life have been like if we'd have followed the Constitution and the global banking structure never took hold in the United States? Wonder what would have happened. I think I can picture it, but they made it very clear in the writing that we were not to be involved in foreign wars that had nothing to do with us. And the trick that they've pulled on you is that they can use war to deteriorate your capitalist nature. They can wear you down. They can take from you. Now look how they're taking from you. You don't know how they're taking from you? Drive through San Francisco and look at the homeless people. Drive through almost any city on the West Coast and look at the homeless people. From what I understand, the population of homeless people in New York is skyrocketing right now. Why? The wealthiest nation in the world. While you have Democrat candidates standing there telling you that we should not prevent any human beings from just walking across the border and taking whatever it is they can get out of the system, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homeless people every night that sleep outside on the streets. And they are worse in Democratic or Democrat-held districts. It's just the truth. America did not look like this 30 years ago. We know what they have been doing behind the scenes with the drug trade. We know what they've been doing behind the scenes with the poisons in our food system. We know what's going on with the poisons in the vaccinations. We know what's going on with the poisons in the water. We have to start doing something about it, because there is no other explanation for it other than they are trying to kill you. Except it isn't the same type of death that you would think of as being killed. The death is spiritual. The death is mental. The death is lack of spirit to be an entrepreneur. The death is lack of motivation to innovate. What motivates a human being to innovate? Why did the founding fathers set it up the way they did? Because they wanted innovation to be let loose. The cabal had prevented any type of innovation for centuries. Any type of progress in humanity. The founding fathers saw a different path. And you guys today, still today, 2019, have it. You still have it. Mainly because of President Trump. But the truth is the Electoral College. The truth is the Electoral College is the reason that you still have your republic. And we've all got to stand up for that. And yes, I want to stand up for humanity's sake, but I want to also stand up for our Constitution first. Our Constitution is not a living, breathing document like they keep telling you. So we see Attorney General Barr talking straight to you. And a couple other, before I dig into the tangent I was just on, to take that to another step, I want to show you a couple of different stories here real quick about Attorney General Barr. AG Barr has been investigating the Obama deep state for months. So we learned about the Mr. Durham from Connecticut, who has been investigating for months. Now, we know that Barr came in on Valentine's Day, so February, March, April, May, 3 months. How quick was this set in motion? How hard did this sideblind the cabal that are standing there? They weren't really talking about this, but all of a sudden, this guy is on their #1 hit list. This guy is investigating how this started. And this is not just an investigator like the OIG. He can subpoena, he can arrest, he has power. And he has credentials in tackling government overreach. And any people that are out there that are standing up against government overreach, they're getting fewer and fewer. They've brainwashed a whole generation of people to think that authority or the authoritative narrative is what is to be listened to. I grew up with a little bit different of a perspective. I was actually taught to question authority. I was taught that in school. I was taught that by my teachers. It wasn't that long ago. Your kids today, your children today in public school system are not being taught to question authority. They're being taught to listen to authority and to never question it. That is a problem. And we have to change it. And Anons are the only ones in the world who are going to do it. You guys. This right here as well, that Barr made it a comment. I wanted to throw this out here real quick for you. Trump drives a stake through the UN gun control treaty. And this came out just recently that Attorney General Barr made this comment talking about him unsigning the treaty. And he did that at the NRA. And now they will not be using UN rules to dictate your gun rights. You have a constitution. You have the right to defend yourself. The Constitution doesn't say you have the right to call someone to come help you after you've been injured. That's not what it means, guys. It's completely turned on its head. So that's a big win. That is a big win for you because of all the cases that are currently going on where they've tried to take people's firearms. They're doing it in New York. They're doing it in other places, in other cities, especially on the West Coast. They do not trust you with guns. And they'll keep telling you that, well, you don't really need a gun for anything other than for hunting. Ha ha! That's not what we want guns for, guys. There's a whole bunch of us, 300 million gun owners, at least 300 million guns in America. That's not why we have them. It's not at all why we have them. They're not for hunting. They are to prevent the state from stealing your wealth. Plain and simple. And the president here, again, has got your back. So, to pivot off of Barr for a minute and to jump into some stuff, for the last couple of weeks, we've read some interesting things. We read one thing was this. I'm going to give you a little refresher course. The 10 planks stated in the Communist Manifesto. We are trying to define communism together. We're going to get to the definition of what it is that communism is. Remember, we read a couple of weeks ago that if none of us agree on what communism is, then theoretically, if our football team, if the linebackers don't agree with the center, doesn't agree with the quarterback, doesn't agree with the coach, doesn't agree with the head coach, if none of our whole team agrees with one another on what the plan is, then really, no matter who your team is, you could have an NFL team, but a high school team could beat them if you weren't cooperative and organized and in agreement with one another. So what communism really is at its core is the dilution of that. It's the dilution of agreement. It's division, divide. That's what communism is. America is united under one flag, under one constitution, under the ideals of freedom, liberty, and justice. Which means you earn what you keep, get to keep what you earn. And no one can really tell you you can't or not to. Well, these things have not quite gone the way we had hoped as constitutionalists, because right here you see in front of you the 10 planks of communism, which is 1, the abolition of private property, the application of all rents and land and public purposes, heavily progressive graduated income tax. Interesting that the Constitution specifically says there shouldn't be a levy of tax against a man's income. Abolition of all rights of inheritance, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels, centralization of credit in the hands. Remember, this is written a long time ago. This is centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of national banks with state capital and exclusive monopoly. Centralization of the means of communications, transportation in the hands of the state. Extension of factories and instruments. And look what they've done. They've integrated all of the huge ag businesses. So now the ag businesses cooperate with the distribution, cooperate with the manufacturing, cooperate with the other distribution, cooperate with the stores they sell the stuff in. It's all a big cooperation together to keep you out of the market, to prevent you from entering the market, to prevent you from saying that something they're selling isn't any good, or telling the truth about what they put in it. Equal liability of all labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture, combination of agriculture with the manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country, by a more equitable distribution of population over the country. What does that mean? Free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factories, labor in the present form, combination of education with industrial production. So now there's the 10 planks of a communism. All of those things go against what you know as freedom. And all of these things were began to be levied against you at the end of the Civil War. That's when this all really got good and going. And leading right up to your current day, leading right up to John Brennan, leading right up to James Comey, right up to Jim Clapper, a large amount of the people in your news media, Hollywood, social media, big ag, big business, communism. Control, divide, conquer. Communism. We have to agree on what it is we're talking about. Anyone that says I don't have a right to own a gun, anyone that says that I should be forced to pay an income tax, any of these rules you can see right here, all the rules that were instigated when they started and how they were organized and levied against you from the place that controls your money, from the Fed. These are all put into place by the Fed against your capitalist market. They control everything. They control the sugar market. They control the dairy market. They control the meat market. They control all of the markets. This is not what you perceive as a free market capitalist structure that's out there right now. We could free this up and everything would change tomorrow. Farmers would flourish because competition would actually start to happen. Recognize six companies produce almost all the meat. 6 companies produce almost all the media. 5 or 6 companies. Consolidation over time. Q talks about this over time. Consolidation. The families consolidate. So what is it? So we're talking about conspiracy here. We're talking about what is conspiracy? Where does it go? Everybody, people want to tell you, if you're trying to tell them about Q, what's going on with conspiracy. Oh, there's no conspiracy. Well, let me tell you, there's a very large infrastructure of conspiracy out there. And we're going to get back into a couple things real quick from one article here or book. It's actually a 50-page book or something, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And I read a little bit from this last week. And I'm going to start back right here. The political structure of a nation dependency. The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetuate our own dependency and relationship of childhood. Simply put, they want a human God to eliminate all risk from their life, pat them on the head, kiss their bruises, put a chicken on every dinner table, clothe their bodies, tuck them into bed at night, and tell them that everything will be all right when they wake up in the morning. This public demand is incredible. So the human God, the politician, meets incredulity with the incredibility by promising the world and delivering nothing. So who is the bigger liar, the public or the Godfather? The public behavior is surrender born of fear, laziness, expediency. It is the basis of the welfare state as a strategic weapon useful against a disgusting public. Most people want to be able to subdue and or kill other human beings, which disturb their daily lives, but they do not want to have to cope with the moral and religious issues which such an overt act on their part might raise. Therefore, they assign the dirty work to others, including their own children, as to keep the blood off their hands. They rave about the humane treatment of animals and then sit down to a delicious hamburger from a whitewashed slaughterhouse down the street and out of sight. But even more hypocritical, they pay taxes to finance a professional association of hitmen collectively called politicians, and then complain about the corruption in government. Responsibility. Again, most people want to be free to do the things, to explore, etc., but they are afraid to fail. The fear of failure is manifested in irresponsibility, and especially in delegating those personal responsibilities to others where success is uncertain or carries possible or created liabilities in law, which the person is not prepared to accept. They want authority, root word, author. But they will not accept responsibility or liability, so they hire politicians to face reality for them. The people hire the politicians so that the people can obtain security without managing it, obtain action without thinking about it, inflict theft, injury, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death, avoid responsibility for their own intentions, obtain the benefits of reality and science without exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either of these things. They give the politicians the power to create and manage a war machine, and provide for the survival of the nation in the womb, prevent encroachment of anything upon the nation and womb, destroy the enemy who threatens the nation or womb, destroy those citizens of their own country who do not conform for the sake of stability of the nation and womb. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys, the CPAs, next who are spies, saboteurs, licensed judges who shout orders and run the closed union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are industrialists. The presidential level of commander-in-chief is shared by the international bankers. The people know that they have created this farce and financed it with their own taxes, consent. But they would rather knuckle under than be a hypocrite. Thus, a nation becomes divided into two very distinct parts, a docile subnation, great silent majority, and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, leaches its substance until it grows strong enough and detaches itself, and then devour its parent. System analysis. In order to make meaningful computerized economic decisions about war, the primary economic flywheel, it is necessary to assign concrete logistical values to each element of the war structure, personal and material alike. The process begins with a clear and candid description of the subsystems of such a structure. And this is very interesting. The draft. Few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable or more effective than that of the socio-military institution known as the draft. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institution is to instill by intimidation in the young males of society the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent. He is soon taught that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet can do in an instant. Thus, a man trained in a religious environment for 18 years of his life can, by the instrument of the government, be broken down, be purged of his fantasies, and delusions in a matter of mere months. Once that conviction is instilled, all else becomes easy to instill. Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who purportedly love him, can be induced to send him off to war to his death. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expended in full detail, nevertheless, a course overview will be possible and can serve to reveal these factors, which must be included in some numerical form in a computer analysis of social and war systems. The tentative definition of the draft. The draft, selective service, is an institution of compulsory collective sacrifice and slavery, devised by the middle-aged and elderly for the purpose of pressing the young into doing the public dirty work. It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of the elders by the youth less likely. Generational stabilizer. It is marketed and sold to the public under the label of patriotic equals national service. Once a candid economic definition of the draft is achieved, that definition is used to outline the boundaries of a structure called human value system, which in turn is translated into the terms of game theory. The value of such a slave labor is given in a table of human values, a table broken down into categories by intelligent experience, post-service, job demand. So this is a little bit I wanted to just read to you. Again, this is Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and I think the mods out there have this. If they can drop it to you, that'd be great. I'd like for you guys to read this if you're interested, because it really does show you an outline and a structure to the way they have subverted your republic. So now we're going to fall back over here to this. And we'll jump into this real quick, just to give you a little bit of background, because we talk about Tavistock. And now to imagine that now that I've said that word, the buffering will start. Because they don't like whenever we talk about Tavistock. Because Tavistock is the Institute of Human Relations shaping, you'll like this, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations shaping the moral, spiritual, culture, political, and economic decline of the United States of America. The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations was unknown to the people of the United States before Dr. Coleman exposed its existence in the monograph, The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, Britain's Control of the U.S. Up to that time, Tavistock has successfully retained its secretive role in shaping the affairs of the United States, its government, and its people since its early beginning in London in 1913. What else happened in 1913? Central Bank? Okay, so we're talking about an organization called Tavistock that goes back to at least that time. Tavistock began as a propaganda creating and disseminating organization centered at Wellington House, which was where the original organization was put together with the intent of shaping a propaganda outlet that would break down the stiff public resistance being encountered to the looming war between Britain and Germany. An organization put together to help propagandize the need for America to want war. Americans weren't too excited about war, mind you, including the Civil War. So skipping over a little bit of this history here, going back, talking about World War I, the belief the direct President Woodrow Wilson, somewhat crude beginning, Wellington House, grew an organization that was to shape the destiny of Germany, Britain, and more especially the U.S. in a manner that became a highly sophisticated organization to manipulate and create public opinion, what is commonly termed mass brainwashing, and what you refer to as the mainstream media. Mainstream media gets their directions from this organization. And a lot of the people that you see out there, AJ, MAGACO, organizations attempting to what? Divide? Make look bad? Patriotism? Teach you diversity is your strength? You guys think is diversity your strength? Diversity is an aspect, and diversity does bring positive outcomes. But is it really your strength? I thought unity was our strength. I thought being together and overcoming adversity together was our strength. Adversity, overcome, not diversity, inserted. Inserted into your daily life, propagandizing you, your family, your grandparents, so no one can ever agree. Generation equalization there we're talking about here. So this is giving you a little bit of the background here. Tavistock, I think the mods out there have this, but the shaping the moral decline of America doesn't really sound like people that are really excited about America. And to think that this organization has been working against you for 100 plus years kind of lines up with the other people working against you. As I recall, it came to me with great clarity that the Committee of 300 has its people at the highest and lowest echelons embedded in the U.S. banking, industry, trade, defense, State Department, indeed in the very White House, not to mention the elite club called the U.S. Senate, which in my view is a forum for pushing the New World Order. In 1917, the New World Order agenda was being rushed through the House and Senate by Wilson, and President Bush forced the New World Order agenda for Iraq through the House and Senate in 2002 without debate. An exercise in arbitrary power and a gross violation of the U.S. Constitution for which the American people are paying a huge price. But the American people are suffering from toxic shock induced by Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, and the American people are in a state of sleepwalking and without leadership. They do not know what the price is, and they do not care to find out. The Committee of 300 continues to rule the United States, just as it did in the Wilson and Roosevelt presidencies. This is a 285-page document talking about the World Trade Organization. Even more astonishing was the acceptance of the federal income tax. Look at that. Even more astonishing was that we accepted a federal income tax. It was passed in September of 1913 to replace trade tariffs. Now look at what your president is doing. He is levying trade tariffs. Why? Because they unlevied trade tariffs, which made our country need funding. Whereas before, we were self-sufficient, or the word sovereign, a sovereign nation outside of the borders of global banking control. If you want to look to what your media is, look no further than this. This is the extension of what is currently propagandizing you today. And when I say today, I'm talking about today. I'm talking about most what you would consider conspiracy forums on the internet are started by Tavistock. Go over to a few of the conspiracy forums where you can type anonymously. Type in Tavistock Institute. See how fast it gets taken down, if it can even be posted. They're not really about conspiracies, guys. They're about fluff and fantasy. They're about putting on a show. What did we call that earlier? Theater. This is theater. War is theater. The narrative is the theater. Your president is attempting to put on another show. He's attempting to lift the curtain so you can actually see what they're doing behind it. And at the same time, teach you how to live in your power. Teach you that you can stand up for yourself. Teach us that we can be organized, that we can be together, that we can love one another through unity, not diversity. The idea of the progressive party. What are you progressing to? Progressing where? I don't want to go anywhere. I like my republic. Anons don't want to go anywhere. They like their republic. They'll stand for it. Look at what we were just reading. Look at all of the men who signed up to go and fight. Look at what 9/11 did to all of America. Today, we sit here 18 years later, and we have roughly 15 to 20 service member suicides a day who could have had families, who could have watched their parents grow old, who could have invented the next thing that made the world a better place. But no, they were bogged down in war in a hellhole in Iraq for no reason. All because a bunch of people stood there and said there's weapons of mass destruction and they're coming for you, and a large number of the American population agreed. They ran a psyop on you. They ran a psyop on all of us on 9/11. Just like they ran a psyop on us for Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin. And mirror that to what's going on currently in the Straits of Hormuz over near Iran. And the rhetoric coming out of the deep state. The president was on stage today saying that Iran doesn't know what's going on, whether it's coming or going, because they're listening to the media and the media is telling them things that just aren't true. And then he said, I don't know if that's a bad thing, which he might not be right. I don't know. You've got to keep them guessing. But Matrixxx and I have went over quite extensively all of the drops relevant to Iran and how this is going to play out. And knowing that Iran is one of the few places that they've been able to fall back to currently. And you have your John Kerry over there telling Iran, oh, just wait till this president's out of office. What? Yeah, just wait till this president's out of office and then we'll go back to the deal. We have people doing the same thing with China. China walked away from the table this week. China announced in country today that they can, that a trade war with the U.S. is going to make them stronger. That sounds like propaganda. They are scared. They are scared stiff that this man is going to win another election. You guys, we have been fighting in the trenches for a year and a half plus now. And I'm here to tell you that it is not going to be over tomorrow. The attacks against Anons, the attacks against Patriots, the attacks on social media are going to continue. And they are going to intensify. And they are going to come at us from all angles. And they are going to try to do everything in their power to divide and conquer. Attacks from within, attacks from the back, attacks from the top, attacks from the bottom. They're not going to stop. And just like that, you're not going to stop. And that's why we're on this wall. That's why I've been on this wall for a long time, everyone. A long time. Before 9/11. I read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars before 9/11. I knew how they were instilling this in our society. I could see what was going on with the misinformation and the propaganda leading up to 9/11. And then to watch all my friends, conservative friends, be gung-ho to bomb Iraq. One after one after one they fell. Supporting President Bush, bombing a country for absolutely no reason other than more cabal control. Saddam Hussein wasn't playing ball. And these other countries weren't playing ball either. There's only one way to deal with that. So for all the folks out there who talk to other folks, and when people address you and they say things to you like, oh, there's no conspiracy to control your mind, there's no structure for brainwashing. Well, we've just shown you the architecture. The architecture of the system that enslaves mankind, not just America, mankind. We'll go to Q. You look at all the banks from some of the early drops. He listed every single cabal-controlled bank. Every single cabal-controlled bank is communist in its nature because of the way it functions. The U.S. Treasury, however, was not. The U.S. Treasury is where the power is of your money and your wealth. And I'm telling you right now, if you were living in a world where your dollar was worth what a dollar should be worth, you would not see homelessness. You would not see your friends fall as you got older to drug addiction time and time again. Or give up and walk away and not understand that failing at something is supposed to teach you something to make you successful somewhere else. Failing at something becomes everything because you've made the investment of everything. Systematic control and systematic degradation of your will and of your intent and of your entrepreneurship and of your desire and of your love and of your life over and over and over and over again, decade after decade after decade after decade, time and time and time. It doesn't stop. What's going to stop it? What's going to stop it if Anons and us and we don't band together and stand up and speak to it? Now, I'm not saying speak about it. Speak to it. Speak to it. We use your speech and speak to it when you talk to others that you know. You don't have to overrun them, but you have to drop crumbs. Learn to drop crumbs with your friends that entice a question. Once they ask you a question, oh my goodness. If you got some person who's asking you a question, then that is the perfect opportunity to insert a little bit of knowledge and be real and gentle, but truthful and direct. Don't beat around the bush. Say what you mean and then back it up. The knowledge is your ability to discern the truth. And the way they control you is to degrade that ability and to remove your environment to speak freely by, as soon as you say something, 20 people pile on and say, oh, well, you're this. Or you say something over here, oh, well, you're this. Or you say something, oh, well, you're that. Control, 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 control. Where is the freedom? Is the freedom over here? Is the freedom over there? What's a free speech zone in America? What's a free speech zone on a college campus? Are you kidding me? How many lives? How much longer? The conversation that we're all having is getting ready to get really, really big, guys. Really big, really fast. You got the OIG report getting ready to come out. You have the D-Class. You have all of these investigations that are getting ready to really get underway. You heard the Attorney General there say there hasn't really been investigations into how this all got started. So you had the whole mainstream media telling you, oh, well, if there was some nefarious way that this got started, Mueller would find it. The guy wasn't even looking at that. You can see right there. He didn't care. He was running the game. Now, however he was running the game, good or bad, one way or the other, that's what he was doing. So the Q Lounge, to me, means unity. It means a way to get on the same page. It means a way to come to circle and to have a conversation, to have a larger conversation that goes back, that it gives you some of the stuff that the cabal predicates their control over you with. This is not just Freemason propaganda or occult propaganda. This is real architecture of societal engineering, and it has to do with the stuff they put in your food. It has to do with the stuff they put under your cabinet that you clean your house with. It has to do with the stuff that you spray on your skin. Guys, I'm telling you, ladies, the perfume is probably one of the most toxic, unbelievably mind-numbing materials that the human body interfaces with. You're spraying it on your skin. Go on the internet and look up chlorine. And look at the experiments of what happens whenever someone takes a colorant, puts it in a cup of water. Both cups of water have chlorine. You can see the chlorine. Guy puts his hand in the water with the chlorine, and guess what? Chlorine goes away. Just a few seconds. A glass. Where does it go? A little bit of it evaporates. But it's super absorbed into your skin. Jump into the swimming pool. Any swimming pool. Sea to shining sea. If it's not a saltwater swimming pool, jump into the swimming pool and you are absorbing a level of chlorine that is so toxic for your brain, for your immune system. But they say it's safe. The deep state studies, all the academia, it's safe. Oh, yeah, you could drink this stuff. Here, let's chlorinate the water. Water's no good. It's not clean until it's chlorinated. Are you kidding me? This conversation is not just about our president and the fight back and forth between Bob Mueller and what's going on in the Congress. It's about more than that. It's about you and I learning who we are in a world that is a reflection of what we are inside. We are attempting to make the world as beautiful as each of you are inside, under all the layers, under all the pain, under all the hurt, under all the experience, under all the weight. A beautiful, beautiful spirit there. And sometimes it's hard to shine, and sometimes it's hard to express. I understand that. But if there is anything on this earth that should motivate you, it's your republic, it's your freedom, it's your liberty, it's your brethren, it's the people you don't even know that live somewhere else on an island somewhere or in another country. Those people are the same. And we're coming for them too, guys. Where we go one, we go all means everybody. And once we get the world to stand up in this movement, we cannot lose. There is no way we can lose. The president and this operation has gotten you so far in a year and a half. It's incredible, but I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to be over tomorrow. We got some time to go. And there's a lot more people that have to come to this conversation before we get there, everyone. So with that, I'm going to jump into a couple other stories. We're going to run through some news articles real quick. Breaking, former intelligence analyst arrested for leaking classified information to news outlets. This is May 9th. Former intel analyst Daniel Everett Hale, 31 of Nashville, arrested Thursday morning, charged with leaking classified information to a news outlet. You want to talk about nervous? There is some nervous journalists in America tonight, especially after that interview with Bill Barr. You are going to see a lot of this, guys. You're going to see a lot of this. But there's some more good news. From July 09 to July 13, charged with leaking classified documents about a military campaign against Al-Qaeda to a reporter for The Intercept 2013 and 2014. According to the indictment, Daniel Hale, who held a top secret sensitive compartmented information security clearance, gave 11 top secret documents to a reporter, which were later published as part of her whole online. 82 arrested in major pedophile bust all across America. And there's been a lot of these stories. This one just came up recently, but this was an operation in, it looks like it went across Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. So a large part of the South. 82 arrests and 17 rescued children. This right here is amazing. The president has asked you, social media platforms should advance freedom of speech, yet too many Americans have seen their accounts suspended, banned, or fraudulently reported for unclear violations or user policies. No matter your views, if you suspect political bias caused such an action to be taken against you, share your story with President Trump. All right, guys, here's an opportunity. This is where you share that you have been censored. Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter. If you're being censored, report it. It's time. It's time for us to stand up. These social media giants are not, I repeat, they are not going to stand in the way of this next election. We have got to get people out of these platforms. Get out of the Facebook news. You want to be on Facebook? Great. Be on Facebook. Share with your friends. Have discussions. But don't rely on Facebook for news. Don't rely on Twitter for news unless you are following a lot of these anons out there that are sharing the truth with you. Matrixxx and I have worked diligently to get the website there for you guys. intheMatrixxx with 3x's.com so that you can send people there to catch up as quick as possible. But also joining the QSN social media network is a connected place for people who already have eaten some red pills, and where you guys can coordinate. Maybe you live close to one another. Maybe you start sharing stories. Maybe you start a business. Maybe you start a YouTube channel. Whatever you want to do. We need voices to this movement. We need more voices to this movement, because the current voices in this movement are being relentlessly attacked, even from people in the movement. And here you see, this is just a little bit of, and I hope the mods dropped that. All right, thank you, Vega. Looks like you got that out there. Looks like here's a little bit of the wonky stuff going on. Your Baghdad won't let Washington use its territory in war against Iran. Oh, okay. So how many trillion in Baghdad? Oh. Deep state nonsense, guys. This is deep state nonsense, every bit of it. Oh, real quick, I wanted to say rest in peace, Isaac Cappy, who passed away this week. If you guys are not aware of who Isaac Cappy was, he was a person who had connections to some of the higher up Hollywood elites. Back last year, he started going on Periscope and revealing names, high-level names of people that he was accusing of atrocious things. And this week, he found himself, he, quote, forced himself from a bridge that was about 20 feet off the ground and was killed by an oncoming vehicle, so they say. There's a lot of stuff going on that doesn't make any sense around this case. And a matter of fact, I think iPod just did something that I didn't catch, but someone was saying that iPod did a really good piece on what's going on with this. So if you guys haven't checked that out, maybe go check him out. iPod is great. We really love his stuff here. But sad for Isaac Cappy. In this video here, you can see that he does do, this person is given a little video showing that he did a Periscope last week, and he did say that he was not suicidal. And so, like I said, they had two witnesses at the scene and claiming that he jumped off the bridge and they couldn't save him. And so two witnesses pretty much lock in that the case can be wrapped up and closed. But it doesn't smell right. Not any of this story smells right, guys. So R.I.P. Isaac Cappy. Godspeed, sir. So real quick, before we start to wrap things up here, I wanted to jump into this. I wanted to share with you guys what George W. Bush's economist said about Trump behind closed doors. Well, that interests me. Behind the scenes, Larry Lindsey, President George W. Bush's National Economic Council Director, spoke Tuesday separately to both the elected House GOP leadership and top committee Republicans, and the presentation about China trade turned a lot of heads, according to multiple people who were in both meetings. Lindsey, who has an economic consultancy, was guested the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Lindsey said he enlisted two psychiatrists to analyze the president from afar. China views President Donald Trump as a total narcissist, a 10 out of 10 narcissist, he said. Lindsey attributed this to the president's upbringing and said his mother didn't pay him adequate attention in childhood. Lindsey said Trump has no long-term plans or ability to think ahead. He said the president has a long-term decision-making ability of an empty chair. The psychiatrist said Chinese President Xi Jinping and Trump are very different people. Very different people, Lindsay said, according to people in both meetings. All that aside, Lindsay did say he was in favor of the president's China policy and postulated that because of some of his traits, he might be able to get a deal with Xi. He said that Trump's position vis-a China is strong, that the U.S. is a better position than China, and that it's important that America not back down. New Speaker Pelosi and Minority Leader Schumer were tentatively going to the White House to meet with Trump on Wednesday. Per several Hill sources, it's unclear who else will be at the meeting. Trump is supposed to have figured out options, But, so, GOP people not too happy with what's going on in China. Nobody is going to be happy with what is going on in China. Nobody. Not big ag, not big business, not corporate media, not big tech, not entertainment, not Hollywood. No one. Why? Because they have been building up their assets there for the last 25 years in anticipation that they were going to destroy your nation out from underneath you. Well, the tables have turned, my friends. Who's in control now? Anons are the news now. And this guy, Judge Napolitano, oh my goodness, this guy is three sheets to the wind every day. I'm not even sure this guy should even qualify as a judge. I mean, the things that he is talking about are so outside of reality. This guy is still semi on the collusion train. Again, Fox News every day. Your opinion matters, Napolitano. Napolitano argued that tariffs are not paid by the country they are imposed upon, in this case China, as the cost of tariffs are actually passed on to the consumer. I don't think this guy knows too much about your history as a nation and how America was built on tariffs, not income tax. There's a big difference. Tariffs built America, income tax destroyed it. President reinserting tariffs. Anons taking apart the Federal Reserve. Logic gets us to the answers here. This is all clown ops. All this stuff in the media you're seeing. Clown ops. Trump, frustrated with advisors over Iran, wants to speak to leaders in Tehran. More clown ops. According to the Washington Post. The Hill, according to the Washington Post. Really upstanding reporting there, Washington Post. Complete falsehood. The president stood there today and said this was a completely false story. Nonetheless, here goes your media running with it. Trump signs executive order to prevent foreign espionage through communications network May 15th. You see what I'm saying, guys? This man is running full speed ahead. Executive order declaring a national emergency with respect to the threats against information, things that you care about. Information and communications technology and services in the U.S. comes during trade escalation with China and amid 5G concerns with Huawei. China's main export is espionage, and the distinction between the Chinese... Oh, wait a minute. Wait, what? I thought Joe Biden was saying that China's not even a threat. The Democrat frontrunner who has some Ukraine problems on the horizon. More deep state news. May 16th, Flynn told Mueller that people tied to Trump in Congress tried to obstruct the probe. We talked about this today on the Matrixxx Grooove Hour. So if you guys didn't check that out, I recommend maybe going back and seeing the Matrixxx Grooove Hour earlier. And then later on today, or earlier today, I didn't see this until later on today. I want to read this tweet from the president. All people that are illegally coming into the United States now will be removed from our country at a later date as we build up our removal forces and as laws are changed. Please do not make yourselves too comfortable. You will be leaving soon. Oh my goodness, the liberals are screaming at the sky with this one. My gosh. But Anons aren't. Anons are screaming hallelujah. Can this really be possible? Yes. So, if you are in a foreign country thinking about coming to America illegally, I recommend against it. And then this is not sourced, but there is rumor out there that there's an investigation of some sort going on to Tom Hanks and his wife. And then there's some stuff out there about Route 66 and Isaac Cappy, and Tom Hanks was someone that he had pointed to. This is frustrating. I'm going to throw it in here real quick because it's the headline that grabbed my attention today. Democrats unanimous as House passes bill forcing schools to let male athletes compete in girls' sports. Androgyny. Here it comes. There is no, we can no longer politically correctly speak about chromosomes and male and female, and now you're going to have, look at this. Unanimous in the House. This isn't going anywhere. Don't get me wrong. Don't be alarmed, but the idea that this, with everything that's going on, with a coup, immigration, the border, everything that's going on, this is they can figure out how to pass something like this. I mean, you just absolutely cannot make this stuff up. Steele identified Russian dossier sources. Notes reveal Christopher Steele told a State Department official a former Russian spy chief and top Kremlin advisor were involved in an operation to collect compromising information on Donald Trump's State Department officials. Notes also indicate Steele claimed the Russians and were sources for the dossier. No evidence the compromising material mentioned in the dossier actually exists, raising questions about whether Steele was given disinformation. You think? Stephen Halper. This is all coming out. The OIG report is coming out. It looks like it's finished and in staff to be released soon. And this is George Papadopoulos was talking about how important this is. Remember what Q said about Italy. Italy flips on Brennan, fires 6 intelligence directors. How many intelligence directors have we fired? How many intelligence directors has your president fired in the last year and a half? Here goes 6 out of Italy. Pain coming, Anons. Pain coming. And this kind of leads back to the president, what I was talking about a second ago. He is planning to invoke the Insurrection Act to remove illegal aliens from the United States. Don't get comfortable, he said.
Didn't just happen by accident. They happened because we are taking out this power out of Washington, these bad people, and returning it to the American people where it belongs. Just think about Comey and his characters. Think about Comey and the gang. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. Comey, Brennan, Clapper, we're draining the swamp, folks. And you think it's easy? It's not easy. It's not easy.
Patriots, Anons worldwide. Join me, join us, join this movement. Stand strong. Do not be intimidated. Do not stop what you're doing. Do not stop your momentum. Do not let them tell you no, no matter what, guys. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. Too bad, I'm really sorry that Matrixxx couldn't make it with us here, but he will be back next time. We will be on the air Monday at 1 p.m. East Coast time. You guys are an amazing group out there. I couldn't have asked for a better place to be or a better time to be in it. Look at you. Just look at you. You just keep on winning. The butter on your fingers, the butter on your face. It's popcorn. It's everywhere. Don't stop, everyone. Please, please, please help and go out and support other great citizen journalist patriots. Jordan Sather, Praying Medic, Serial Brain, iPod, SGT Report, We the People, Insider 1776, Joe M with the memes, Lisa Mae Crowley, Dustin Nemos, JT Wild, X22 Report, Anon Decoder, Blessed to Teach, Lionel Media, Soylent Greens with the memes and the gifts. Oh my goodness, Stormy Patriot, Joe. Wow, there's so many. I can't even get to all of them. All of you have made this possible. Not one of you. All of you have made this possible. Please feel free to post in the YouTube comments below. If someone asks a question, don't hesitate to help them out if you can. If not, maybe direct them to one of us. Maybe we can help them out. But we are here to spread the notion that there is a clear line between the truth and the lie. The lie is that they are the global elite. The truth is that you are the global elite. You, Anons, are the global elite. You are bringing fire. You're bringing the revolution. Yell fire, baby. All of us together. Speak at the top of your lungs. Do not divide us. Unite us, and we will stand tall. Good night, you beautiful, lovely, wonderful patriots. And until next time, we will see you soon.